Rev up your engines!
Sal R says, I bought Atlas tires made in Thailand, like the Triumph, 5.5 years ago for my FJ Cruiser at only 9,000 miles. All four have tire tread separation. Atlas doesn't answer emails or phone calls. Buy American. Well, yeah, you got a point there. Years ago, we used to sell Atlas tires because my father had an Esso station. Well, they changed their name, but they sold Atlas products. My father had to buy these Atlas tires, and they were good tires in the day, but they were made in the United States back in those days, right? Today, obviously, the Atlas tire's out, and it's a good reason not to buy a lot of foreign tires if they aren't well made. There is no sense of buying them. There's so many different companies out there, and overseas, who knows what kind of quality it is. You are better. Like, for example, there's a Korean tire factory by me in Clarksville, right? They're all made in the United States here. Even though it's a Korean company, the tires are made in the United States, and those are fine tires too, right? Do watch where you buy tires from. Haji says, do you remember the days when technology advances in cars were actually useful? Yeah, well, you got a point there, I mean, they make tires better so they last longer. Yes. They make piston rings better so the good cars don't burn oil, right? Like Toyota. Yes. But I do have to agree. Now, innovation, some of them are absurd. You can stick your leg under the back of your car's bumper and the trunk will open. Do we really need this crap? No, we don't. And in terms of usefulness, an ignition key. You got to have a key to start your car, right? A lot of them are keyless now. It makes it real useful for thieves. They can steal your car easy. They don't need a key. They can just get your information and they can program a blank car, keyless ignition, and away they go. With a regular key, they'd have to get a key, right? And where are they going to get a key? They'd have to have a copy of your key. But they can get a copy of your electronic signal coming out of your little clicker and steal your car that way if you do not have a key. So a lot of the stuff definitely is not useful, but they do it because they can, and a lot of it because it promotes planned obsolescence. Electronics generally break down faster than mechanical parts. So if they wear out faster, you buy another car, they sell more cars, they make more money. Roderick Alcohol says, our 3-cylinder Toyota GR vehicle is worth it. All right, I was just having a discussion with a guy the other day about one. He had just bought a Toyota Prius Prime, and he loves it, right? And he was asking about the GR, and I said, look, it's phenomenal technology, right? You got a little 3-cylinder turbo that puts out a ton of horsepower, right? But from what I've seen, some of those engines have blown up already. You get a small 3-cylinder engine, pump a lot of power in it, yeah, you can end up blowing the things up. Now, they're specialty cars. They're marking up the heck out of them because, somebody wants to get one, and they're fast, right? Now, the problem with Toyota is known for long-term reliability, not particularly speed. Do you really want a speedy one, 3-cylinder engine? I personally wouldn't buy one. Advart KS says, Camry SE versus Accord. Well, right there. I like the Camry, so I'd pick a Camry. But you pick the two best sedans in the world for what you're going to pay. Those are the two best. And if you were wondering what should I get, here's my advice. Go to the Honda dealer, go to the Toyota dealer, and road test each one. See which one you like and buy it. They're both very reliable, can last a really long time. Some people like the Honda zippiness and handling more. Some people like the long life and a little bit better gas mileage that they're going to get out of the Toyota. So you kind of pick and choose on that. But those are the best, too. You really couldn't go wrong with either one of those if you're buying them new. Daniel Galbraith says, what do you think of the normally aspirated 3.3-liter F-150? Okay, it's a 6-cylinder engine. It's not a V8. If I was going to get an F-150, I'd get a V8. I'd like the torque and the pulling power, right? If you're not towing a bunch of stuff, carrying a lot of weight, it's perfectly fine. I've had customers in Tennessee and in Rhode Island that have the V6 normally aspirated Ford engines, and they're still running strong. They change the oil regularly, and they don't burn oil. You're better off than a twin turbo V6, which is going to wear out faster. The turbos are going to break. Ford says, well, the turbo should last 100,000. Well, I want my engine to last more than 100,000 miles, and dual turbos cost a lot of money when they break. So there's nothing wrong. If you don't mind the less power and you're not snow plowing and pulling heavy weights, it could be a perfectly fine vehicle. Randy Ramirez. Why did Ford make the Crown Victoria and the Grand Marquis look identical to each other in their styling except for the grille and the badges that was on the cars? Okay, well, I understand one thing. For ages, there hasn't been such a thing as Lincoln or Mercury. It's all Ford. So the Ford Crown Victoria and the Mercury Grand Marquis were the same car, just different chrome and badges, that's all. It was in name only. Just like Cadillac, I don't know, 90 years ago, there was an actual Cadillac company, right? But GM's owned them for years. It's just in name only. They're the same cars. That's just Ford made them both. Oil Can Sean says, I got a 2004 Nissan Maxima. Is it worth fixing if it has 150,000 miles? Depending on the shape that it's in. Okay? You live up north and it's rotting away from all the snow and salt. No, it wouldn't be worth fixing. If the transmission still shifts good, if it doesn't burn much oil, it could still be a good car. I've seen the older Maximas go 300,000 miles. Realize it's 2004. There was only 4 years after Renault took over, right? And then all the crap at the fan and it was garbage. So they were still decent cars, but you'd have to look at the overall picture. Is it rusted? Does the tranny shift good? Does it not burn a lot of oil? And if it's still okay, it'd be worth driving for a while. You know, why not? Alex says, Scotty, do you think the 2030 EV laws in some states will be repealed if and when things don't go as planned? Oh yeah, I agree entirely. Already the Germans have reneged on a bunch of theirs because they see, geez, it's going to be a real squirrely mess. It'll change. The wind blows. Look, here's how politicians work. They're like wheat. When the wind blows to the left, they bend to the left. When the wind blows to the right, they bend to the right. And most Americans do not want electric cars. There's no infrastructure, and I'm sure things will dramatically change before 2030 comes about. Jackie G says, Scotty, I have an 04 Mazda 6 wagon. My radio doesn't work. What can I do? Hum a tune. You know, I don't use radios anymore. I can't stand the crap that's on them, right? Okay, the cell phone that you're watching me on now, it's a Google Pixel 6, right? I listen to all my music on that, and I broadcast it in the car using an Android. Now, let's say you don't want to install an Android for your radio that's broken. You can get beautiful speakers, those portable speakers this big, for $59 that sound phenomenal. We use them at the pool and stuff on the beach all the time. Put that in your car and listen to Spotify like I do. Any song on the planet practically you can get. You don't have to listen to the horse manure coming out of disc jockeys' mouths. So check the fuse in your radio. Make sure the fuse isn't blown. Now realize some cars you have to actually pull the radio out, and there's a special fuse behind there. But if your car is a radio fuse, check that and all that stuff. But me, I think radios stink anyways. Upgrade to either an Android or get a remote speaker and use your phone. And you can listen to the radio on my Google Pixel phone if you want to. I mean, I don't bother. I can't stand the advertising. Sir Franklin said, Scotty, between the 5.7 and a 6.4 Hemi, which would you go for if you had to choose one? Thanks. All right, simple pushrod V8 engines. They're not that complex. I go for the 5.7 just because it seems to be a bit strong and you'll get a little bit better gas mileage. I mean, they're all gas hogs. The older they are, generally, you're better off because they were stronger built. The newer ones are weaker than the older ones. I'll tell you that right now. To get more horsepower, they moved the cams up. And it used to be the crank splashed oil on the cam to lubricate it. Well, on the later model ones, they moved the cam up for more horsepower. And what happened was the oil at idle and low speeds didn't splash from the crankshaft to get the cam, and the cam runs dry and the cams burn out on them. So I don't particularly like the really modern ones. If you do own one, don't idle it. Train comes, shut it off. Don't drive at low speeds. That's what wears them out. Astro says, do you have any experience rebuilding automatic transmissions? I want to try it at home in an old 70R4 GM tranny. Is it difficult? Well, it's relatively difficult. There's tons of little pieces and stuff. Let me tell you, you strip one down and it will make your head spin. I know automatic transmission rebuilders that retired early because they said these new transmissions are getting more and more complex, and they stopped the business, sold it to somebody else and retired. They didn't want to get involved in it. It's a very complex thing. It's not simple, let me tell you. For that reason, a lot of guys will try a used unit from a junkyard because they are hard to rebuild. You need all kinds of specialty tools, and believe me, there are a million different pieces inside that can go wrong. Man with a cigar says, yo, Scotty, why are you filming vertically? Because they're forcing me to. My phone is a Google Pixel, and it says, oh, now we're doing vertical filming for live chat. So that's what I've done too. But you'll see, you know, I turn these into regular videos later. Right now, you're looking at me with a camera. Well, over here, I've got my regular Panasonic full HD system and a HyperX microphone, and the ones you're going to see as videos are the normal horizontal. But but Google's going to vertical live talk, so I've done it, and you'll notice it's probably better than it was before because they're switching all their software to it. It's like originally, I've been doing these live car talks for a long time, decades. The thing is, originally I used my computer, but Google stopped streaming. They didn't support them anymore, so now they're going this way. So you'll see me live like this, but then my other camera's filming it that way, so you'll see it normal when you see the videos on YouTube, when I turn them into YouTube videos. So don't worry about it. It's just another software thing that Google's up to, I guess. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.